I'm Alex Michelson. This week, the issue is extreme heat.
We've got to move quickly because, as we see, Mother Nature is not slowing down.
We go one-on-one with the U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm, looking at the future of green tech, keeping the lights on in the meantime. Plus, we're joined by two of California's top reporters, Jeremy B. White of Politico and Alexei Kossef of CalMatters, talk about the chaotic end of California's legislative calendar. Among the issues they discuss, the Diablo Canyon plant remaining open for now. But what's next for nuclear power? The Issue Is starts right now.
Broadcasting across California, you're watching The Issue Is.
And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Alex Michelson. Up and down the Golden State, one of the biggest issues this Labor Day weekend continues to be the heat. Triple-digit temperatures stressing the state's power grid with concerns about rolling blackouts. While that's happening, a debate in Sacramento about the future of nuclear power. Who better to talk about all this with than the U.S. Secretary of Energy? Jennifer Granholm was originally born in Canada, but was mostly raised here in California. She attended UC Berkeley and later taught at UC Berkeley. She served as Michigan's first female governor. We joined her this week on multiple days here in Southern California.
Rub it in there. There we go.
U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm plugs in to charge an all-electric big rig. This truck produces zero emissions. It can drive 120 to 250 miles in a day and takes about 70 minutes to charge. This is the battery that we're looking at. Tracy Chake is Tech's regional sales director. She says this is a game changer.
In the United States, it's the first of its kind.
She hands me the keys and I'll admit I was nervous, but somehow I didn't crash.
It feels surprisingly like driving a regular car. It's pretty quiet in here. It's a pretty smooth ride.
Sales are soaring. More than 360 already sold at this lot. They cost over $400,000 each, about 3 times the cost of a diesel version.
That's why you really could use some help from the federal government, state government, etc.
Absolutely. We definitely, our customers need help to reduce the costs.
President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act invests $369 billion in climate change provisions, the largest investment in U.S. history. California's legislature just passed a record $54 billion in climate spending.
California is in the lead, can show the rest of the nation how it is done, but clearly you are facing it as well. Hi, how are you doing?
The secretary met some of those training to do just that at San Bernardino Valley College's Clean Vehicle Technology Certificate Program. Lauro Salazar was working on diesel cars. Now he's studying to specialize in electric cars.
Electric is where everything is going. And so when I saw that, I was like, you should probably go into electric.
These kids want to feel like they're part of something bigger, and this is something bigger, and how they can benefit the world. It's really very exciting.
Secretary Granholm also visited us at our studios to talk about a variety of issues, including the California legislature's decision to extend the life of the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant in San Luis Obispo County. It's the last remaining nuclear power plant in California. It was set to close in 2025, but now it'll likely stay open until at least 2030. The big issue in California right now is keeping the lights on. This Labor Day weekend, it is hot. The power grid is stressed. How confident are you that we don't have rolling blackouts, and what role does the federal government have in sort of helping keep the state going?
Yeah, first of all, you are fortunate that you have an incredible, what is known as the California ISO, and they are organizing the energy market for California, and they are so good. So I'm really confident in the leadership of the state in making sure that energy is flowing. But there is no doubt that everybody's using air conditioning, and so there's a real pull on the grid. So I think that they're wise. I know that they moved off of this and on this, but they're wise to ask people, I think, to conserve where they can, just to make sure that we can get through. In the meantime, though, we've got to add more clean energy to the grid, and that is a critical part of what the president has been focused on, and I know the governor is focused on.
And part of that right now is nuclear power.
Yep.
I know you are a supporter of the fact that Diablo Canyon's life is going to be extended to 2030.
Potentially. It's not a done deal yet. The fact that that life is potentially going to be extended is really important because, of course, nuclear is zero carbon emitting baseload power. And I'm a proponent of nuclear power. I think that the next generation nuclear power is really important as well. So let's keep what we have while we get through this period of time, because these extreme weather events are going to continue to happen, meaning extended droughts, extended heat waves. And so we've got to keep clean power on, even as we build out the renewable power that we also want to see.
So why not expand nuclear?
We
Because
want to
basically this is
expand
because in this state, though, there are no plans to expand nuclear anywhere. Diablo Canyon is still a plan about when do you shut it down, not open a new one.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that, and every state is different, right? So you have to respect what is acceptable for that state. But a lot of states are expanding nuclear. A lot of states are looking at these next generation advanced modular reactors, which are smaller. There's no doubt that next generation nuclear is very exciting and very safe. And the designs that have been approved by our Nuclear Regulatory Commission are very much getting uptake in other countries and in the United States and other parts of the United States.
So it sounds like your advice to California might be take another look at this
they might
issue.
want to. They might want to take a look at it. I mean, if I were here, I would. I understand people are concerned about nuclear waste. Totally understand about that. And so we are at the Department of Energy asking for states who are interested to have a conversation about being a place for a safe repository of nuclear waste, so that states who have nuclear facilities don't have to be the repository for that.
So California made national headlines by becoming the first state to say by 2035 we're not going to have any gas-powered vehicles that are new that are being sold. You can still drive your old ones, but you can't sell new ones. You like this concept?
Yeah, I do. I think California really is leaning in. And of course, the federal government has a goal the president has announced by 2030 that half of the vehicles in the U.S., the new ones sold, would be electric.
Do you think what California is doing could or should be a national model?
Could be. I mean, I know every state is different, and you always have to respect what the states are doing. But I do think that once California has gotten more used to electric vehicles, and we have to bring down the price of electric vehicles so that everybody can access them. And this is why it's great that there's a $4,000 tax credit, for example, on used electric vehicles that has just been adopted through the Inflation Reduction Act. So once they get more acceptable, I think those numbers don't sound as daunting.
Some people obviously are concerned about the cost. Another concern a lot of people have is the grid. We talked about this earlier this week. We had this situation this week where they say, don't charge your electric vehicles during peak hours, which is kind of scary for people that think a few years from now we're going to have all electric vehicles out there. What happens then? What do you say to people who feel like we're just not going to be ready by 2035? That's not realistic.
Well, 2035 is a long way away as well. We have to add power to the grid, clean power. We've got to add transmission lines to be able to bring that clean power to places where it's needed. All of that is happening right now. All of that, we're pushing on all of these levers simultaneously to get clean power onto the nation's electric grid. We have got to double the size of the electric grid in this country, and we're doing that. It's part of the investments in the transmission that were passed by Congress in both the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act.
And let's talk a little bit more about the Inflation Reduction Act, because congratulations, it's the biggest investment in climate in the history of this country. When people hear budget numbers, most average people are like, what does that mean to me? So for the average person that's watching this right now, what does this mean to them? How does this impact their life? What are they getting out of this?
All right, so on a very granular level, for people who want to reduce their energy costs, this means that there will be rebates for them to install, for example, heat pumps to replace their HVAC system, which uses often a lot of natural gas and electricity, for a much more efficient pump, which is electric, and that will heat and cool one's home. Same thing, if you want to, the rebates are all tied to income. So if you install a heat pump and you're lower income, you can get the whole thing paid for. If you're medium income, you can get $8,000 back. If you install an electric induction stove, you can get $850 or $840 back on a rebate. Plus, if you want to install solar panels on your roof, a 30% tax credit off the top. If you are low income, you can have this all done as part of our weatherization assistance program. So all of this for real people, for home energy costs, it's all bringing it down. On the big level, of course, it incentivizes utilities, businesses to install solar, to do utility scale, big solar fields, big wind farms, so that we can add that clean electricity onto the grid, which is, you know, from an individual point of view, it's also healthier. It's so much healthier for people to breathe.
Very exciting. Something else that's exciting, I'm sure, for you is that gas prices have been going down for a while now.
Thank goodness.
But,
yes.
We know this is a global phenomenon. You can't control all
Yep.
of the gas yourself because there's so many other things that are going. But where do you see in terms of the forecast of gas prices going forward? Because you know here in California they're the highest, and we're such a car culture here.
Yes, yes. It is a global thing. So the reason why gas prices went through the roof is because Russia invaded Ukraine, and Russia was a big exporter of oil. Oil gets refined into gasoline, and that's why the prices are up, because that supply was taken off the market. The president said, we want to fill in that hole that Russia created by invading Ukraine. We want to add more supply to the market. So he has the biggest tool at his disposal, which is the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And that's the U.S. has barrels of oil in reserve that we are releasing now 1 million barrels a day to be able to stabilize supply and demand to keep these prices coming down. Now, the Energy Information Administration inside of the Department of Energy forecasts what the price will be. And on a national average, it's looking like it's about where it's going to stabilize right now. I will say this, though, depending on what happens globally. I mean, if China decides that because of its COVID lockdown, it opens up, and that means everybody in China starts to drive again, that means demand will go up, and that means prices will go up globally.
Up next, Granholm talks about President Biden's future, plays our personal issues game. Stay with us. We are talking with Jennifer Granholm, the Secretary of Energy. Want to talk a few moments about you. Before you were in this job, you were on TV all the time talking about the political realities. So if we could get your pundit hat for a second. There are still some Democrats that question whether he's too old, that question whether he should run again. Give us some insight into what he's really like behind the scenes, what cabinet meetings are like. What do you say to those critics?
Oh my gosh, I wish that they could see the president at meetings, at cabinet meetings, et cetera. I mean, he's, with all the experience that he has so much depth of knowledge. And when he's so incisive, he's asking questions, he knows these leaders, across the globe, he knows the issues, he knows how and on top of all of that, I mean, he's just incredibly sharp. On top of that, he has this incredible heart for real people. And in cabinet meetings, he will tell us all, you guys, do not talk in jargon. Talk to people. What is this going to do for real people? What is this going to do for this community, for the jobs there, for people putting food on the table? I mean, he is the leader for our time. I hope he runs again, because he has been amazing. And I can just say he's a man with such a good heart and soul. There's no, I don't know. I mean, I really am so grateful to be as part of his cabinet.
Well, we want to play quick games to get to know you a little bit better. Personal issues. This is 30 seconds. First thing that comes to mind, these are your favorites. Not personal issues, we're not going to therapy.
Okay.
Just cultural favorites, first thing that comes to mind, okay? What's your all-time favorite book?
Is American Prometheus, which is about Oppenheimer.
Okay. Favorite TV show?
I am rewatching the Game of Thrones so that I can watch the latest episode.
Okay. I don't know if that says something about Washington. Now I'm in Washington watching Game of Thrones. Favorite athlete?
Serena.
Ah, good choice. Favorite movie?
Believe it or not, It's a Wonderful Life.
Nice. Favorite type of music?
I like Motown.
Oh, great choice. What is your favorite way to relax?
I like to run.
Who's your favorite Republican?
My father.
Oh, good choice. And this may be the same answer. Who's your role model?
My father passed away. He would be a role model, certainly. But the first thing that comes to mind is another role model who also passed away. But I loved Ann Richards, former governor of Texas.
Yeah. Next time you come on, I'm going to have some Motown ready for you.
All
Do you have
right.
a favorite song or favorite?
Well, Aretha, R-E-S-P-E-C-T,
okay.
you know.
There you go. Well, we're giving you some respect. Thank you so much, Secretary Jennifer Granholm.
So
Great
much,
to have
Alec.
you here on The Issue Is.
Great to be on.
Up next, you see him standing by there, Politico's Jeremy White and CalMatters' Alexei Kossef on a historic week in California politics. But first, inspired by Secretary Granholm, here's Aretha Franklin at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Getting Diablo Canyon extended, just extending its life for a short period of time.
California Governor Gavin Newsom pushed for and received the legislature's blessing to help extend the life of Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant until at least 2030. Let's talk about the end of California's legislative session with two people who cover this perhaps closer and better than anyone in the state. Jeremy B. White writes the California Politico Playbook, a free daily newsletter that's a must-read for all things California politics. Alexei Kossef is the state Capitol reporter for CalMatters. He's the president of the Sacramento Press Club, and he broke the French Laundry story. Gentlemen, welcome back to you both. You both were there late into the night as this legislative session ended. The last thing that they talked about, Jeremy, was this Diablo Canyon nuclear decision. Ultimately, it was almost a unanimous decision. What was happening behind the scenes?
There was a lot of effort by the governor's office, in particular, to get this one across the finish line. It's something that a lot of Democratic lawmakers were not particularly happy with, particularly those allied with environmentalists or who have districts in the area. They remembered that there was an agreement to take this plant offline. But ultimately, I think the political necessity of keeping the lights on was what carried the day on this one.
And maybe they got the best lobbying help from Mother Nature. One of the hottest days of the entire year is when this was all happening. Meanwhile, Alexei, the governor pushed for aggressive climate package, and he got most of what he wanted. Let's put some of it up on the screen. $54 billion in climate spending, carbon neutrality by 2045, rules for carbon capture and storage, targets for 100% clean electricity by 2045, and no new oil and gas wells 200 feet from homes, schools, and hospitals. Alexei, there was some strong lobbying against a lot of this stuff, yet the governor mostly got his way. How did he pull it off?
There is that strong opposition, as you say, from business interests, from the oil industry. You know, there's a lot of concerns that have been raised about what this would mean for electricity prices for the average Californian. But with the governor and his administration really stepping in, you know, making that effort in the final days of session, sitting down with lawmakers right off the floor and talking to people, assuaging their concerns and convincing them that this was in the interest of the state, they were able to sort of push this over the line, in some cases by a single vote more than what they needed to get it out of the Assembly or the Senate.
Who is the biggest winner and biggest loser of this session, this year, in terms of California politics?
One person that you could point to as a big winner is Gavin Newsom himself. Prior to this year, he was not someone who had really intervened in the legislative session very closely. He liked to work more through the budget, through executive order, but he went big on a legislative package this year and got almost all of it through. A big loser would probably be the vaccine working group. It was a group of legislators who introduced probably about a dozen bills related to trying to make it easier for teenagers to get vaccinated without parental permission, to require COVID-19 vaccines for school and work. Almost all of those fell by the wayside by the end of the session.
All right, Jeremy, now to you. Biggest winner, biggest loser?
I think Alexei is absolutely right that the governor had a very good session. There was some doubt that he could come in late and get this climate package done, but he did. In terms of a loser, I think the oil industry, other than one of these bills that they managed to block, they were largely defeated in terms of the lawmakers sending these bills to the governor's desk.
Well, we're all about to win because we're about to see Alexei's dance moves. Now, you know we like to dance on this show. Jeremy really doesn't like to dance on this show. But Alexei is an actual dancer on the side. He works with the Boogie Monstars. We'll have scoops from these two when we come back. But first, Alexei, we want you to dance to the latest from Elton John and Britney Spears. This just came out. I know this is one of your favorites. Here's Hold Me Closer. Martha Vandella's Heat Wave seems appropriate given the temperatures California is dealing with this weekend. We are back with our guests, Alexei Kossef of CalMatters and Jeremy B. White of Politico. Now we're going to blatantly steal a segment idea from the old Chris Matthews show. Tell Me Something I Don't Know, which is scoops and predictions from two of the top reporters in the States. Alexei, let's start with you. Tell me something I don't know.
Well, I wanted to keep it a little fun with this one and give people a sense of, what the atmosphere was like behind the scenes at the Capitol. I think one thing that nobody really knows about is at the end of session, nearing 2 a.m. as people were leaving, there was a mariachi band that came out and was playing in the rotunda of the Capitol, and Senator Banueso, an outgoing lawmaker, went down there and sang with them. Actually, a pretty incredible voice. Did not know he could sing like that.
Jeremy, tell me something I don't know.
I'm going to stick with Alexei's theme and say that until you have been there in person for an end of a legislative session, it's hard to appreciate just how chaotic it can feel. When bills are short votes, you'll have lawmakers shouting each other's names on the floor, running around. There's 1,000 lobbyists outside. Seeing it up close, you realize a lot of really consequential policy gets defeated or passed in this fairly fluid, chaotic situations.
All right, so it is time for us to end, and I am feeling for everybody this weekend with the heat all over the state. So we're going to end with Shaka Khan, I Feel For You, and a chance to dance it out. We'll be back next week for more of The Issue Is. Alexei, take the lead here.
Let me rock you, this all I wanna do.